Zombie Apocalypse.
What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. This is 6 Scale Economist, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian from Hot Toys. Cool, so just as we normally do, let's talk about it first from a collector's perspective, and then we're going to talk about it from an investment perspective. So from a collection perspective, like, this figure is awesome. Obviously, like, Mandalorian, like, very popular show. The Mandalorian look, clone trooper look, very, highly desired. I love the color on this figure. It's just great blue. The gun that he comes with and jetpack is probably the selling point for me for this figure. I mean, it's just awesome. I'm quite curious to see what this is going to be made of and how, like, posable that's going to be, and, like, but I assume it's going to be okay. And you obviously have the the cloth under the armor, so you're going to be able to pose him very freely without having to worry about damaging him or leaving him in tough poses for a long period of time. Helmet detail is great. The weathering on the figure is awesome. Hot Toys just always just knock that out of the park as they usually do. One thing I don't totally love about the figure is he has kind of like a fat looking figure, like heavy set, and so generally like this is a great picture to kind of show that just always looking at Hot Toys, people always hate the fat suits and always the figures look slimmer and the outfits look tighter and stuff. But this figure is supposed to be a heavy trooper, and so I think that it'll get away with it. And I think that the pictures that we've seen from Secret Base, which I'll go over in a second, kind of show it more. And I think that we're probably going to be okay on that. Here he is again next to Mandalorian. Obviously, you can see how much heavier he looks relative to the Mandalorian. It's just his legs look really stocky, and I get that it's a heavy trooper, but it just doesn't look as appealing when they look that heavy set. But that's just a small nick in what I think is overall a great figure. You get this sweet sword thing that that he has in the show. This pose is hilarious. I think this pose is kind of a joke, but I guess it's cool. If you watch the show and you met that hear that way that character talks, don't think that's a pose that he would normally do, but it's cool. I'm never going to pose like that, but I think it looks funny. And maybe I'll pose like that, but probably not. This is probably the pose I'll do. That's a badass pose. Carbon score, I mean, the detail and the weathering on the helmet is just fantastic. Cool. Now taking a look at everything he comes with. Obviously, you get the jetpack with the flame effects. Jetpack is fantastic. The detail just looks so good. You get this. What I think is the selling point of this figure is just massive machine gun, and this machine gun is going to be huge. It's probably obviously hard to tell in pictures, but it's probably going to go to his shoulder-ish area on the ground. And think about how big that Hot Toy is. That is, it's a 12-inch figure, so that gun is going to look massive, and it's just the detailing on it is going to be great. And so it's just going to look so good on a shelf, which is very exciting. Display base is kind of just meh. It's whatever. Middle of the pack, nothing great about it, nothing bad about it. I'm fine with it. I kind of wish there was a snow stormtrooper helmet on it, or something a remnant stormtrooper helmet on it. But it's not a deluxe set, so you can't really expect that. It's cool. But yeah. And then also I have a picture from Secret Base, so I just want to pull that up. Where did I put that? Actually, I don't know. That's okay. It basically, if you go on Secret Base, you can see the figure in person, the in-person photo. It looks great. There's really no nicks about it. So overall, from a collector's perspective, I definitely very much like this figure. Let's talk about it from an investment perspective. $281. So that means you're looking at probably $315, $320, $325 area for shipping and tax if you're buying it from Sideshow. It's steep. It's not a deluxe figure. You're not getting a cool base with it, and you're not getting a crazy amount of accessories. But the reason why you are paying that high price point is, one, that gun is basically an accessory, and it's a very substantial accessory. And two, it's also just a bigger figure, and so naturally it's going to cost more for them to make all those materials, which is fine. The $281 price I think is fair. If you comp it to Cody and Rex, that's 242 and 255 respectively. Like, if anything, those might feel a little bit more overpriced than this one feels. Although, like, in general, I think that they're all, like, very fair. And, like, after you buy so many Hot Toys in the secondary market, which I'm sure a lot of people who collect it are, like, familiar with, you kind of just learn to appreciate these prices, that you get to pay, like, $281, before tax and shipping and everything for, like, a brand new figure that is, like, an awesome figure. Okay. So, the way I'm thinking about this figure is you have... we've gotten a decent line now from The Mandalorian. In terms of, like, overall all the Mandalorian figures, which I will be going over all of them, this one is skewed towards the higher end of the figures that I think are going to be, like, pretty good investments and, don't have very much downside. I'm definitely more bullish on this figure than I am on some of the other ones, like the IG unit or the Incinerator Trooper, which I'll talk about in future videos. But from an investment perspective, the way I'm thinking about it is your downsides are... This figure had a very brief showing in the show, The Mandalorian, right, in Season 1. There's no guarantee that he's going to be in Season 2. And so that adds, like, some volatility to this figure. Like, if people who are, like, buying Mandalorian figures, like, on the fence and, like, they only want to pick up, like, one or two from, like, the whole line, like, the dead giveaway is the carbonized Mandalorian Trooper, the best car outfit, Mandalorian Trooper, either the deluxe or the standard, the one that both of them come with Baby Yoda. I think one of them comes with, like, an extra Baby Yoda carriage, but like that, I think that one's, like, obviously the no-brainer, and that's the one that's going to be, like, very much in demand. But then, like, after that, like, I think, like, it might be, like, split a little bit. Like, I know what I prefer, but, like, some people might pick up, like, the Remnant Trooper, or might pick up, like, the Incinerator Trooper, and if they don't, like, have that big of a budget for the Mandalorian, like, they might skip over this one. And so, because this one doesn't have that much of a presence, that presents, like, a downside to it. Second downside to it is one that's more of, like, a systemic downside to the Mandalorian figures that we just haven't seen yet, is that we don't know how produced they are. It's not a main series, it's not a main movie line, right? So, like, and what we've seen with those non-main movie lines, like Solo, Rogue One, is that they were very underproduced, and that was very supportive for their prices. But the problem with Mandalorian is that the Mandalorian was, or not the problem, but the great thing about Mandalorian is that the show did very well. People loved the show. The show did very well for, like, Disney made them a bunch of money. I think it was, like, there was some stat about it. It was like top 3, like, most streamed shows for, like, a certain amount of time. It might have been the top show, most streamed show. So, like, that presents the question: is this line going to be underproduced or not? It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell right now because we haven't gotten any figures, released from that line. But that's going to be, I think that's going to be an important key metric to keep in mind for what the potential downside/upside is of these figures. Now, the nice part about the Heavy Mandalorian Trooper is, because he is a figure that is kind of, like, generic, the best way I can compare it is, like, take, for example, Episode 8 Leia. Episode 8 Leia is only really going to appeal to people who, like, either like that movie or like collecting, like, Leia figures in general. And so that presents a very, very bad downside for that figure, and that's why that figure, has performed, like, pretty poorly in the secondary market, is that, like, the people that want to buy that figure is, like, very limited. But with this figure, like, even if you are, like, you didn't, like, totally love the Mandalorian show, which I don't know how you didn't, it's a great show, but if you, like, didn't totally love the Mandalorian show, or, like, you're not a big fan of, like, collecting figures that, like, didn't really show up that much in the show, like, he's not like a he's not like a main character in the show or anything, he's kind of just like a one-off character. He also just has, like, because he's, like, a Mandalorian, like, a clone trooper look, he just has, like, a generic look. So, like, even if you, like, didn't totally love the show, you're like, oh, well, that figure is, like, just, like, looks badass, and, like, it comes, like, sweet accessories. Like, I just want it on my display shelf either way. So that really helps and is supportive with his downside. Like, comp that versus, like, the IG unit. I can't remember his name for some reason. I think is it IG-13? I can't remember. But the IG unit from the show, like, that figure is, like, not really a generic figure, and, like, not one that you can kind of just, like, display whatever, like, he just looks like a clone trooper or Mandalorian. Like, you gotta, like, really like that character, like, really like that show, or be, like, a completionist where you want to collect the whole wave. And so that figure has a lot more downside risk, given that he's, like, I won't spoil anything, but that one just has a lot more downside risk than this one, because this one also appeals to a lot of generic collectors who just like to collect figures, like, look like clones or whatever. So yeah, I think if you buy this figure, you're going to be paying, like I said, probably $320, $330-ish range all in for this figure, you're going to be okay. I can't imagine that's going to go, below retail. With that being said, we're still waiting out until, October 2020, December 2020, the figure comes out. If you're on the fence and you're trying to figure out where you want to allocate your money and you can't allocate too much money right now, you're probably okay to just keep sitting on this figure because I'm sure they're still gauging like interest in the Mandalorian figures, and that's why they're still available for pre-order. And I would imagine the way like the system works from like a supply chain management ways, the reason why Sideshow puts out figures like 12 months in advance is because they leave the pre-orders, because as they're gaining interest and more people making pre-orders, they just tell Hot Toys, keep making more figures, like we keep getting more orders. So like that's why it was so shocking when the solo figures went straight from pre-order to waitlist, like the Mud Trooper and Han Solo Standard and Deluxe, is because like theoretically they should be able to, theoretically what they should be doing is they should have this pre-order time set to where they can continue telling Hot Toys to make more and more figures, and then once the pre-order time is over, Sideshow can use that data to make like a prediction on what they think, how many in-stock figures they need, to like stay in stock for like 6 months. I would imagine that's probably the sweet spot for Sideshow. You don't want to oversupply your figures to where they're in stock for like 3 years, and then like once that happens, like kind of like the lure for the Hot Toys kind of dies down. Like you're kind of like, oh, like I want to buy a figure, but like I don't want my figure to like go down in value. And like if it's gonna be in stock for 3 years, that means it's like never gonna go up in value, or it might even like go down in value. I'm just gonna lose my money. Like I don't really want to like invest that much money into it. But if it's in stock for like only like 6 months, then it's like, okay, like I'm okay like pre-ordering it, like, or okay, I'm okay buying it when it comes right out because I know it's probably going to sell in 6 months. I want to get it now before it sells out, and then maybe it goes up in value. So like the sweet spot for Sideshow and Hot Toys is to make enough figures to last the entire pre-order cycle, and then give Sideshow enough stock for, call it like 4 to 6 months of in stock, and then sell out. So it was really shocking when this, and I imagine that is what Sideshow, plans to do. Like that is probably what their plan is they try and have that in stock amount for probably like 6 months or so. Sometimes it goes over, sometimes it goes under. But when it goes straight from pre-order to waitlist, like we saw with the solo figures, that is concerning, but also very, very good for the secondary market. And so that's why my recommendation for this figure is, if you are on the fence, keep waiting. You still have a lot of time till October. Once we get closer to October, that's when you have to be more thoughtful of whether or not you want to pre-order it or not. And the main reason for that is because we haven't seen if The Mandalorian as a series for Hot Toys is going to be underproduced or not. I can't imagine that it will, but remember that it's not a main movie series, so it always does have that potential to be underproduced, like we saw with Rogue One and solo figures. And so if it is underproduced, they always have the potential to go straight from pre-order to waitlist, which is going to be very crippling for people, who were on the fence about purchasing the figure, because then they have to go to secondary market. And we saw it happen to Mud Trooper. It was $235 retail. It went straight from pre-order to waitlist, and then bang, it's like $320, like within like a few days on secondary market and eBay. And that one's probably like only going up from here. And so that would be my recommendation for this figure. You can hang out, keep waiting, but just keep that October 2020, December 2020 timeline in the back of your mind, and also keep watching what's happening with the other Mandalorian figures. If the other Mandalorian figures convert to in stock, and they release and they're in stock for a while, that probably gives you more insight as to what's going to happen with these future Mandalorian figures, because I imagine the Mandalorians as a whole wave is going to be produced a certain amount. And so that's just something, to be thoughtful of. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember...